Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 895 for the 30th of November, 2025. Richard Saunders coming to you from a very sunny and hot and sticky and warm Sydney, Australia. Before I start this week's episode, a big thank you to everybody who wished me a happy birthday. Yes, I turned 720 months old. Ooh, that's quite a milestone, or as we say in Australia, a milestone. You think we'd use a term like that's quite a kilometre marker, but we don't. Anyway, thank you very much for all your kind birthday wishes. Now, coming up on this week's show, a segment I recorded for last week's show, but last week's show was rather full, so I bumped it to this week. It's all about the impending doom disaster will soon be invaded, yada yada yada, by 3I Atlas, the comet that is hurtling its way through our solar system. And as the weeks go by, because I recorded this segment over a week ago, there was more news about the comet. Now there's less, and expect to be less and less and less over the coming weeks, because the comet is acting exactly as a comet should. Anyway, an update on some of the wacky, zany claims of Comet 3I Atlas, the visitor from another part of the galaxy. Following that, it's a discussion with the Loons from Canada, Kate and Allie, otherwise known as Cat McLeod and Adrian Hill, with Karen Bijkersma from Melbourne, who will be talking about the pink tax. Certainly something that should be of concern to people everywhere, not just skeptics. And this is where women are penalised for being women, in the form of extra taxes, or should we say extra cost to buying the same items that men buy, except they happen to be a different colour. Pink, usually. It's a crazy system. It should be stopped. Hear more from Karen Bijkersma as she chats to the Loons from Canada. And to round off the show, it's back to the TROVE Archives. We're going to look at naturopathy, and naturopaths. And we have some readings from the archives with my friend and the Secretary of Australian Skeptics, Lara Benham. And during that segment, I look at a flyer to do with hair analysis. And I'm sure Lara would be very much opposed to a pink tax. A shout out to our reporter Maynard. He has been working very hard on his Christmas special coming up very soon. In fact, I think it's next week. If you keep listening to the show today, you'll hear all about Maynard's Christmas special. But I encourage you to visit maynard.com.au, and those Christmas specials are always a highlight of the year. Stay tuned at the end of the episode for more announcements from me. But now it's time for me to run downstairs and open up the bag of lovely presents that my niece and my sisters gave me, full of German goodies. Yum, yum, yum. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Some weeks ago on the Skeptic Zone, we told you about Comet 3I Atlas and all the hype and the worry and the concern and the exaggerations and the UFO believers beside themselves. Maybe they were cloned, I don't know. This is not a comet. This can't be natural. It's sending messages to Earth. TikTok especially was full of this tripe. And it was spearheaded by one Harvard professor, Avi Loeb. And I will link in this week's show notes to a wonderful video our friend Professor Dave did on Avi Loeb, calling him out for spewing absolute nonsense. And it's interesting to see that NASA have just updated their commentary and delivered new photographs on this object. It is, as widely suspected, a visitor from another star system, another part of the Milky Way, whizzing through, zooming through, tearing through our solar system, not hitting anything, on its merry way, and now it's heading out towards Jupiter and then so on into infinity. It is, to science, a very interesting item indeed, and why not? It was tracked from observations from Mars even. Its trajectory was plotted, its speed was known, and there's no surprises. It's a wonderful opportunity for the astronomers and NASA to study something new, something very unusual, but it's not, dare I say, earth-shattering. Now, this is very disappointing news, or you would think it was very disappointing news for the UFO believers, the any day now people. But no, of course, NASA are engaged in a cover-up, and I wonder if some of them actually care. I mean, it's their bread and butter, right? Spreading this sort of stuff, commenting on UFOs and aliens and comets and whatever. Ross Coulthard is a great example of that. It simply doesn't matter. It's just business is business. NASA have posted on the 19th of November, view interstellar comet 3I Atlas through NASA's multiple lenses. It's an article here, and it goes on to show you the various images of this comet taken through various observation telescopes and so on. And it's barely discernible. In other words, all the pictures you've seen in social media or on social media of clarity, a long object with lights on the side and all this sort of thing is nonsense. It's just made up. You know, we shouldn't be shocked that some humans just make things up. NASA is in the midst, it says, of an unprecedented solar-wide observation campaign, turning its spacecraft and space telescopes to follow 3I Atlas, the third known interstellar object to pass through our solar system. 12 NASA assets have captured and processed imagery of the comet since it was first discovered on July 1, and several others will have the opportunities to capture more images as the comet continues to pass through our solar system. And at the bottom here it says Comet 3I Atlas will fly closest to Earth about Friday the 19th of December at a distance of 170 million miles. And why they don't have this in kilometres, I really don't know. Come on, NASA, get your act together. And that's equivalent to about 2,073,500 kilometres, which is almost twice the distance between the Earth and the Sun. NASA spacecraft will continue to observe the comet as it makes its journey through the solar system, passing the orbit of Jupiter in spring 2026. Hello, NASA? Hello, NASA? Hello? Anybody there? What do you mean spring? It's spring now. Oh, you mean spring in the northern hemisphere, where the whole world seems to operate. They seem to be a little behind the times at NASA at the moment, I must say. Kilometres, and assuming the whole world has the same spring. Minor quibble there with NASA. Now, getting back to the aforementioned Avi Loeb, the joke of academia at the moment, he went on News Nation. Now, I think this is the same network that Ross Coulthard regularly appears on to push his stories and interesting fiction. Maybe it's a long-term plan to write a new science fiction novel or movie, who knows. So News Nation, after the latest NASA update, simply saying it's a comet, it's very interesting, but it's just a comet, went on News Nation. What did he have to say?
My next guest spent months pushing for these images to be released, so is he now convinced that it's not alien technology? Let's ask him. Harvard professor Avi Loeb joins me now. Okay, Avi, you've been telling me for months now that you think this might be an alien object. Is this a disappointment?
No, because there wasn't much new information released. In fact, we knew most of the details that were mentioned today from the scientific sharing of data from the Hubble Space Telescope, the Webb Space Telescope. And what they uncovered was the skin of the object, basically that some ices and perhaps some dust that evaporates when the sun illuminates that surface. But even if you consider a spacecraft that travels through the cold interstellar medium, it would accumulate over time ices and dust on it that would be released, and you don't need large quantities to explain.
I think that's enough from Avi Loeb. What an embarrassment he is to Harvard. I'm sorry, people at Harvard University. I'm really sorry. What an utter embarrassment this twerp is. Well, like all of us, I guess, he's just trying to save face now in light of the evidence which does not support his hypothesis that it's possibly alien and all the rest of it. And I would think that it's simply in the to the benefit of people like News Nation and Newsmax to have this ridiculous character on, because the story is of interest and he's someone saying something outrageous. So, yeah, it's the old story, business is business. You want to get people watching your programs. Let's end with another perspective on Comet 3i Atlas, transmitted 2 days ago by alien communicator or channeler Emily H. Eaton at the channel Divine Magic. Doubtless an important message.
Today is November 17th, and I have another message from the aliens. I'm an interdimensional communicator, and I'm back with another message about 3i Atlas. It is still not a comet, and it now has visible jets pointing in multiple directions, including toward the sun, which is completely unexplainable for a natural comet. Today's message is again from the Council of Nine. As usual, they gave me their message telepathically. I typed it up into words on my iPad, checked in with them, and now it's ready for you. Here's the message. Each day that passes on Earth reveals more evidence that 3i Atlas is not a natural comet. It has a visible coma, which makes it look like a comet, but this interstellar visitor is spacecraft, not ice and rock. We did not need to make it visible to you. We did not need to plot its improbable flight path. We did not need to change its color, make it spin, or reveal the jets now on full display. We have done this for your benefit. We are showing you what is possible when you reject the fear-based limiting beliefs you have been fed your whole life.
Maybe the aliens piloting this 3i Atlas, who are they? The Council of Nine, apparently. Maybe they're in league with the same aliens who make crop circles. They just come along, vandalize things, and seemingly have fun at our expense. Well, maybe we should mount a force against them. Tell them to bugger off to another part of the universe and annoy some other civilization. Well, as I said before, business is business, and people like Ross Coulthard, Avi Loeb, etc. will continue. No matter what we do, we can point out their folly. But as long as media keep giving them attention, and they will, we've certainly got our work cut out for us.
Ho, 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 it's Maynard here telling you all about a very Maynard Christmas 2025. That's right, on December 6th, 8:15, it's all going to be happening at mixcloud.com/live/DJ Maynard. Or if you can't be buggered with that, just go to maynard.com.au and there'll be live links there from around about 8:10 Sydney time for a very Maynard Christmas 2025. Now, this year we have really tried really hard and failed yet again, but we will be bringing you an unexpected festive farce that you've come to expect from me, and I'm someone who has inflatable legs for a window. So what do you expect? The Christmas is Xanadu Maynadu this year, and we've put on a show here at Maynard International Studios. We've got dancing, we've got singing and dancing. And we've got unimpressed Germans, but more of that later. We'll have Tim Ferguson on the show as Tim and I decide to pick the festive Doctor Who episode you should watch. Hint, it's not the one about the Nymons. Anyway, that one, we did that last year. It's worse. We've got one wiggle and one cockroach. We've got Leslie Fountain, who is basically, he's our dancer. In fact, he's our entire dance troupe. Leslie Fountain as our entire dance troupe on the main stage. Bridget Handley will be coming to us from Germany, and we look at unimpressed Germans. There's something about West Germans, they were just never happy. I say entertain them nicked, I say, and that's spelled Nicked. And of course, Tony Push will be along to show us his new teeth, and George Arab will have a festive Christmas song for us all. That's right, it's a Christmas special you probably don't want or need, but you've got it anyway. So just in case everything else falls through, try A Very Maynard Christmas from 8:15. This is take 6, everybody. This is like a hard thing for me to do. Just in case everything falls through, consider A Very Maynard Christmas 2025 from around about 8:15 or a little bit earlier. You never know. It's free. It's streamed. You can watch it. You can watch along with us. You can talk along with us. You can tell me what you think of me. I'll tell you what I think of you. All of that in an open, caring, sharing environment from about 8:15 Sydney time this Saturday, the 6th of December. In case everything else falls through, there's A Very Maynard Christmas 2025. Xanadu is coming your way.
It's the Loons from Canada. Here's Kate and Allie.
Hello, everybody. This is Kate and Allie, the Loons from Canada, and we are here with a special guest.
All the way from Melbourne, Australia. So the Loons from Canada are reaching out to our guest, Karen Bijkersma. Welcome, Karen.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Now, Karen, I understand you recently did a talk all about the pink tax. What inspired you to give that talk?
Well, I'd heard of it. I'm a feminist. I'm a writer. I've been doing a series of talks with the Skeptics, talks and podcasts on feminist consumer rights issues. And pink tax had crossed my path, but we're not talking about it. We're not hearing about it. So I thought, well, it must have just gone away. It must be a non-issue.
And then you go shopping and you understand that no,
I was so wrong.
the pink tax is very real. And for those listeners who aren't aware of what the pink tax is, it is a cost that basically punishes women for being women. Our personal hygiene products cost more for the exact same thing, like razors, deodorant, body wash, some clothing, dry cleaning. Why is dry cleaning a man's shirt cheaper than a woman's blouse?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a study done in New York, years ago now, in the 90s. One of the first studies on services. And yes, dry cleaning and haircuts are notoriously pink taxed. And that's really where it kicked off.
And that's on top of the things that women buy just because we're women, like menstrual products, makeup, lotions, because a lot of men don't moisturize. And kudos to the ones that do.
Yes, I've got a whole list of additional products and services that women need from womb to tomb that men don't. So already there's that tax.
What are some of the most egregious things that you found in your research? Because you've done some relatively recent research, correct, versus the New York Times study that was done in the 90s.
I have. I did 3 months of field work in addition to the literature reviews I was doing and looking for surveys and reports on the state of the pink tax. And really there's nothing in Australia. So I figured I'd have to do my own field work, which I did. Just first of all to see, is this for real? Is this a thing? And it definitely is. And I'm not sure what's worse. The really obvious, glaring, immediately sort of shocking examples that like smack you in the face. The really sneaky, insidious ones where you really have to unpack and decipher what's going on, which you can't do in situ. You can't do it standing there in the supermarket or the department store with the lights blaring, the terrible music, the kids, tugging at your coat. It's not until you get home and really look into it that you're going to do that kind of deep dive analysis and find out some of the, evil genius behind sneaking the pink tax into some of these products. The first product I saw that was very blatant that really set me off, or one of the first products, was swimming goggles, junior goggles, pink and purple, $16, but only $12 for yellow and blue.
So what's interesting about that pink tax is my kids, for some reason, all love purple. So what you're telling me is, even though I have 2 boys and a girl, I would have ended up having to pay more for my boys who like the purple. Is there any evidence that the extra cost is because of the color, or is it really the same cost no matter what color we make it?
This is where pinkification, a term I came up with, comes in, because it seems that manufacturers are deliberately creating a pink version of the same product. There's no evidence that the pink dye costs more. So it really just seems to be for the sake of adding a premium price. Now, it hasn't been proven in a court of law, because the cases that have gone to court in the US, the manufacturers have refused to provide details about the manufacturing processes and ingredients and materials and costs. Probably, dare I say, because there is no evidence, but they say it's to protect their patents. It hasn't been proved in a court of law. To date, there has been no successful proceedings.
One of the things that disturbs me the most is things like medication and supplements, where they have a woman's version and a nondescript version. They'll have certain pain medications that are for women, and it's the exact same as the quote unquote standard or regular or normal version. But because it's got woman slapped on it, it's the more expensive version.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I found some examples of that. For starters, there's the whole period pain business. In Australia anyway, and a lot of other countries, there's no longer sales tax on period products. They've found other ways to, tax periods. And one example is products in Australia like Naprogesic and Ponstan, which are specifically clearly labelled for period pain.
I think the North American equivalent would be Midol.
Yes, Midol. Yeah. And I think it's just ibuprofen, isn't it?
Or acetaminophen, one of the two. I'd have to look it up. But it's packaged for period pain. And it's like, it doesn't have codeine or morphine in it. So sometimes it wouldn't have cut it for me.
So you were right, Kat. It's acetaminophen and caffeine.
There you go.
Oh, wow. Caffeine. Yeah, which I'm sure you can buy more cheaply per dosage.
And have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm not a pharmacist, but the period pain medications are what we call NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs that you can get over the counter. And Naprogesic in Australia works out at 83 cents typically per tablet, whereas you can take an aspirin for 4 cents or an ibuprofen for 6 cents if you buy those from the supermarket, and they are also NSAIDs. Ponstan is 52 cents. Other ingredients like the caffeine are unnecessary. Yeah. There's an example with Gillette adding white tea. Okay, so Venus Comfort Glide razor with white tea turns out to be white tea scent with no actual benefits, and not listed in the ingredients panel because it's, I don't know, homeopathic, or it's just a chemical fragrance. But even if they did use actual white tea bags if you want to pay retail, organic white tea, it's $5.50 for 50 tea bags. So even if they used a whole tea bag per razor, and there's 3 razors in the pack, they're charging an extra $2 for the pack of razors. So it's really unjustified.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of razors, I actually did look into this. I just went to Walmart. I just used one example. And I was really surprised. Over the years, I have seen a huge difference. If it's a pink razor versus a men's razor, there's usually a significant difference in the cost. And they actually had Gillette disposable razors and Equate razors and other premium razors. And the men's and the women's were exactly the same price. So I was really surprised at that. However, when I went on to look at, I know you talked about in your talk things like deodorant or shampoo. What I noticed with that, where they were very tricky, was it looked like the same price for the 2 different men's versus women. A man's Speed Stick deodorant was 2 for $6.38, and same for the women's. However, the men's was 85 grams and the women's was 70. So I thought that was sneaky.
Totally. And that's one of those sneaky pinkification strategies where they will vary the volume or the number of items in the pack, pink it or shrink it, where women pay more for less. And with razors, it's notorious. Often you'll get, 4 in the men's pack and 3 in the women's pack. And also often you'll get men's versions that you can buy in bulk, but you don't get the women's versions in bulk. They're in smaller, more expensive amounts.
I noticed that with shampoos. When I was looking online for shampoos, the men's would come in these 950 milliliter, almost a liter bottles. And the equivalent brand in women's, the highest would be, say, 555 milliliters or 325 milliliters.
Yes, and that's very common, especially in personal care products, which is where pink tax is really, lavishly applied. You do see it a lot in shampoos and razors, especially.
I need to go back and look at the razor packages now to see if they had one less razor.
Ah, yes.
Compare how many blades are in each razor, because quite often men will have 3 or 4 blades and women will have 2.
Yes, separating the blades and the handles means there's 2 opportunities to apply pink tax by giving men more for their money and giving women less for more money than the men's.
But because women do the vast majority of shopping, the women tend to be the consumers for the families, for their household. Why do they punish us like this?
It's because they can. And they make it so hard for us to compare products. For example, razors. First of all, there's an overwhelming amount on display, which already gives you option paralysis. And the men's are displayed separately to the women. So you'd have to run back and forth, up and down the supermarket aisle to make comparisons. But also they make every razor and every pack just that little bit different. So there are no 2 products the same. You can't compare exactly oranges and oranges or apples and apples. They always make it oranges and apples. And even their websites and social media for Gillette are separate. So you can't make direct comparisons easily. And in my supermarket, the razors aren't at separate ends of the aisle. The women's are actually in the next aisle. So you'd have to run around back and forth to the next aisle. There's all these techniques for making it really almost impossible to compare products.
That's fascinating. I'd never thought of it, Karen, because the shampoo where I shop for groceries, the women's is on a separate aisle than the men's. I'd never even thought about that, but you're right.
Very deliberate. Everything is deliberate and it's very sneaky. And you almost don't notice until you go through this exercise of trying to compare. When it comes to buying the men's version because it's cheaper than the women's version, there's some great social media sites such as Pointlessly Gendered, which is a place where people can post photos of examples they've found out in the wild, out in the field. And somebody's posted some Marcus Alexander shoes, and they've tried to purchase the men's version, and they've had a pop-up come up to say, in red, your current email address is already being used for your women's account. To purchase a men's item, please log out and sign up with a new email address to create a men's account.
How ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Like, what if you're buying a gift for somebody?
I know.
And I'm sorry, my little goth girl kid here, I always used to wear Chuck Taylor high top shoes, but they would not make them in black. Black is my ensemble color.
Same.
So I would buy the boys' version because men's are too big for me.
And I have the opposite problem. I'm tall, and I've often had to purchase men's rain pants for golf, Gore-Tex, hiking boots because I can't get them in women's sizes. So that's insane.
Isn't it? And I'm the same. I'm tall with big, wide feet. Now there's more options for different women's feet. They now have finally understood are not all slim and dainty. Some of us have, big, wide, flappy feet like me. And what's with a male and female email address anyway?
I've never heard of that.
I know, right? So if this is still the case, could you please explain to me why women are unable to purchase men's shoes?
Have you ever heard anybody use the argument that the pink tax is there because women are willing to pay more, or they see it as being better if it is more expensive?
Well, there is this marketing principle that sometimes things need to cost a certain amount in order to be perceived as high quality. For example, perfume. If you're paying over $100 for a small bottle of perfume, there's an assumption that it's going to be superior to paying $1 for a bottle of perfume. And there are people who will reject a $1 bottle of perfume in favour of, a $100 bottle of perfume. Or you wouldn't want to buy, a $5 car. You would prefer to buy a $50,000 car. I mean, manufacturing costs aside, but there is a perception of quality and price. So they're tapping into that. It's a lot of things. There's a lack of choice. There's the grooming we've had since birth to prefer certain, colours and fragrances. There's an expectation on women, or the pressure on women to smell a certain way, be groomed a certain way, look a certain way. And there's been research into how this affects women in employment. I'm looking at a 2016 study, Gender and Returns to Attractiveness, done in the US, a long-running national study of 14,000 people that says women are more likely to spend more money on improving their appearance because not doing so is associated with the risk of losing revenue. You will be financially penalised by not conforming to all that grooming and that, well, let's face it, generally conservatively feminine, traditional idea, but also in your personal life and your romantic life, there's pressure on women, and that's a whole other matter. Something interesting I came across that I found quite entertaining is Hobson's choice, which is the idea that you have a free choice, but actually it's a choice between one shitty thing and another shitty thing. It's an illusion. Hobson was a livery stable owner in Cambridge, England in the 1500s, who offered customers the choice of either taking the horse in the stall nearest the door that he'd put there, or having no horse at all, because he didn't want customers to keep taking the best horses. So it's like, you have to have this horse or none at all. And that's kind of what women are facing. Pay more or buy the men's product or go without. It's not a legitimate choice. And it just reinforces the message that, women are less important than men. And it doesn't solve the problem of the pink tax and the gender wage gap and all the gender inequities that we have from, womb to tomb. And this is all, apart from economically damaging, it's socially and psychologically damaging to women. I mean, my blood pressure goes up when I see in store. And on one side, I'm like, bam, gotcha. I see what you're doing and I'm going to complain to you about it. On the other hand, it raises my blood pressure. It makes me furious.
It's just watching the time. And if you've got any last words of wisdom for how women can fight back against the pink tax?
Yes, I would like to add that. But I just want to say at this point that the pink tax is imposed on women, on girls and women from womb to tomb. And I had that theory and I wanted to test it. And so I looked at funeral products, coffins and urns. And sure enough, the adult majestic black cremation urn is $199.95. The exact same product in pink, adult pink polished nickel leaf border cremation urn, $269.95. So, an extra $69.
Wow.
Even when you're dead. So it literally is from womb to tomb. There are two exceptions, though. Two kinds of females who are not pink taxed in Australia anyway. One is babies. I don't know when that happened, but it's like they don't dare. I could not find a single example of the girls' version costing more. I looked at like 21 retailers and I couldn't find any pink tax on babies' products. So they can do it. And the other one, do you know what the other one is?
Bicycles.
The elderly?
No, they're massively taxed because it's medical products. And no, the other one is pets. I couldn't find any pink tax on pet products. In Australia anyway, I could not find a single example of pet products having the pink tax. The example I showed in my presentation at Skepticon was some superhero costumes. Don't get me started on, dressing up.
We won't go into Halloween costumes and Halloween.
There's hideous photos of these little dogs in one's in a Supergirl pet costume, one's in a Wonder Woman pet costume. There's little dresses with accessories, and then one's a Superman costume. They're all $33.80, the three of them. So dogs are treated with more respect than women when it comes to pink tax.
Now, there's a place to end on.
Yeah, well, how about we end on a positive and talk about just briefly what can we do from here? As a consumer, we can try and avoid buying pink or blue and buy gender-neutral products and support gender-neutral stores because in Australia anyway, that is an increasing market. We can be vocal, we can spread the word, and I'm not above standing in the supermarket aisle looking at pink products and saying to the woman next to me looking at products, look at this, rah, rah, rah.
Isn't this outrageous?
Yes, and then we buy, yes. And then we both, choose something else. Learn who to boycott and who to support. And of the 21 retailers I looked at, I did do a report card of the good, bad and ugly. Look out for examples and photograph them and share them on social media. And complain to businesses, show the evidence, share the evidence. And that brings us into, lobbying as a campaigner. Lobby in Australia, there's Choice, there's the ACCC, there's ASIC, there's ombudsmans. Share your views and experiences with the media. I'm working on a media release. I'm going to bombard the media, especially because it's 30 years. This year is the 30-year anniversary of the first legislation in the US, in California. And it was just for services, not products as well. But that's when the term pink tax was coined. That was 30 years ago.
Thank you so much. This has been really interesting and enraging.
Yes. And where can people find your work, Karen?
On my website, it's www.Karen my name. You might have to Google that.
It'll be in the show notes.
.com.au. And you'll find my books and other talks on there as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Well, until next time, this is
Kate
and Allie, the Loons from Canada.
That's right.
There we go.
That's the end bit. The Loons from Canada. We're crazy.
How bad is that, huh? Dr. Harriet Hall, MD, known to thousands as the Skepdoc, was a retired family physician and former Air Force flight surgeon who wrote about medicine, so-called complementary and alternative medicine, science, quackery, and critical thinking. Harriet produced a free online course of 10 video lectures on science-based medicine and alternative medicine. The videos and an accompanying course guide can be found by following the link at skepdoc.info or by visiting tinyurl.com/Skepdoc series. Topics covered in the series are science-based medicine versus evidence-based medicine, what is CAM, chiropractic, acupuncture, homeopathy, naturopathy and herbal medicine, energy medicine, miscellaneous alternatives, pitfalls in research, and science-based medicine in the media and politics. Harriet covers each topic in a matter-of-fact, no-nonsense way that is sure to educate and entertain. Find it at tinyurl.com/Skepdoc series.
Once again, back to the archives, the digital archives from around the world, where we can look up, well, things from the past that journalists had to say about lots of subjects of interest to skeptics. Normally at TROVE Archives, the TROVE Archives at trove.nla.gov.au, but also maybe Google newspapers, that's a good resource, or other online references. And sometimes, as will be the case today, I reference my own personal archive of material collected over the last quarter of a century. Now, last week on the show, I'm sure you'll remember an excellent Woo Watch with Kate Thomas, where she talked about the fact that naturopaths in Australia, and I don't know what the situation is in other countries, but in Australia they don't have to be registered. In fact, they're not registered. There's no registration board. There's no professional body looking after the concerns of patients, for example, who have complaints. The term is not a protected title. You can call yourself a naturopath by doing a simple online course for, a couple of dollars or whatever it is, and just hang up a shingle saying naturopath. They are not, despite what many people think, they are not healthcare professionals, and they are certainly not doctors. Now, if we go to Google and type in the word naturopathy is a holistic approach to health that uses natural therapies like herbal medicine, nutrition, and lifestyle changes to support the body's self-healing abilities. It focuses on treating the root cause of illnesses rather than just the symptoms, and views health in terms of the mind, body, and spirit. Naturopathic practice can be used to support wellness, disease prevention, and the management of a wide range of common health issues. It seems to be rather a generous overview. Directly at the top here from AI, the link gives a reference to the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization recognizes naturopathy as an important ... and Endeavour College of Natural Health, and also the Australian Natural Therapies Association. So an overly generous and one-sided opinion or look at naturopathy there. I wonder what Wiki has to say. Naturopathy or naturopathic medicine is a form of alternative medicine. A wide array of practices branded as natural, non-invasive, or promoting self-healing, and they are in quotation marks, are employed by its practitioners who are known as naturopaths. These treatments range from the pseudoscientific and thoroughly discredited, such as homeopathy, to widely accepted, such as certain forms of psychotherapy. The ideology and methods of naturopathy are based on vitalism and folk medicine rather than evidence-based medicine, although practitioners may use techniques supported by evidence. The ethics of naturopathy have been called into question by medical professionals, and its practice has been characterised as quackery. With that being said, let's dive into the past, into the files. And joining me this week in the Trove segment is the Secretary of Australian Skeptics, Lara Benham.
And now we turn to the pages of The Times, Victor Harbor, South Australia, 20th of June 1995. Herbs, an alternative cure. Sometimes even the most outstanding doctor can't find a cure for your blues. You may have a recurring illness, feel generally sick, or be constantly tired. Undiagnosed illnesses can not only be frustrating, but can lead to depression and lack of confidence and low self-esteem. If treatments don't seem to be working, it may be time to try a different type of therapy. Naturopaths are becoming more and more accepted by the broader community. No longer are herbal concoctions thought of as witches' brews, even though there are still skeptics. A visit to the naturopath can seem a bit strange, even daunting. You will be faced with a barrage of questions about your general health, health history, way of life, and even family background. But all the information is used to create a profile of you. Instead of the usual checkup routine, a naturopath looks into your eyes to get an idea about the body's state of health. This is called iridology and involves viewing the iris of the eye and gaining an understanding of the person's constitution. What can be read from the eyes can quite amazing. And I'm assuming that was a misprint and it was supposed to read, what can be read from the eyes can be quite amazing. The naturopath will be able to tell you things about your health which you haven't revealed. It's quite strange to be told that you get thirsty a lot or don't get much exercise from having someone look in your eyes. But it does give clients a faith in their naturopath's knowledge and the prescribed treatment. In many cases, the naturopath will mix up a course of herbal medicine concocted from a number of herbal solutions which are combined and bottled. Each person has their medicine made just to suit them. It may seem that treatment isn't working for the first days or even weeks, but it is important to persevere. A lifelong ailment could take months to be reversed or subdued. Eventually, the entire mind, body and spirit should feel the benefits of natural medicine.
Now diving into my files, my personal files, and referencing a company that was called at the time Naturopathic Services Proprietary Limited. This is a flyer handed out 21 years ago. And I could imagine would it be a mind-body spirit festival I went to 21 years ago. And it says in big letters, be free of allergies. And in small letters, in between be free of and allergies is the words bio-individual. Be free of bio-individual allergies. Do you suffer from or being diagnosed with asthma, sinus and hay fever, rashes or itchy skin, arthritis, constipation, indigestion, headache, migraine, chronic fatigue, irritable bowel, candida, ADHD and ADD, excess mucus, flatulence, psoriasis, eczema? It could be allergy and it can be cured. Many people today suffer from allergies. Allergies are cumulative and a reaction may not take place for up to 4 days. Often people crave the very foods they are allergic to. Contact with allergens increases inflammatory mediators in the blood, which then inflames tissue in any part of the body. In the joints, it can cause arthritic pains. In the respiratory tract, it can cause sinus, asthma, and excess mucus. In the nervous system, it can cause headache, migraine, depression, tiredness, and add to ADHD. In the skin, it can cause rashes, eczema, psoriasis, and hives. Delightful. It is very important that you have as many items as possible checked. We test 260 items, and then you remove the harmful items and build your diet from the remaining safe foods. In our 12 years of specializing in allergies, we have found that eating the wrong foods can aggravate most health problems. Now, before we read on, you may know of the standard test doctors conduct for allergies where I think they draw like a little chessboard on your back or your arms and introduce a little bit of grass seeds or whatnot and see if your body reacts. This is not that. We'll get to that soon. Page 2. No needles or blood test. Safe and accurate. We use modern electronic equipment that works from, here it comes, a hair sample. Our test is safe, accurate, and has no harmful side effects. Medication. Oh dear. Medications will not affect this test. To cut to the chase, you cut off a bit of your hair and send it in an envelope to these people. No harmful side effects, eh? Well, it's all very well for you, but what about the poor bits of hair that get sent off? We read on. Every disease state known to man can either be caused or aggravated by allergies. One patient reported that 14.5 years of headaches and migraines disappeared after eliminating broccoli and other allergens. I would hate to eliminate broccoli from my diet. A lady who had blocked sinuses and had been coughing for over 50 years was cured once she stopped eating wheat bran. Her intolerance to perfumes also disappeared. 50 years of asthma was gone after only 6 weeks on this program. This lady reports that she can now run on a beach for the first time in her life. A young boy's badly inflamed tonsils and adenoids cleared once off pawpaw and bananas. A delighted father reported his ADD child had gone from the bottom to top of the class, was sleeping and eating well, and her behavioural problems had disappeared only 6 weeks into this program. Asthma, bloating, irritable bowel, nausea and migraines all cleared once off allergic foods. Patient also reported she was off all medications and had lost 9 kilos in weight. Just stopping here to say if this is true, if these stories were true, and they're probably not. I'm sure their doctors were not impressed that she stopped medication. A lady reported that her sinus and middle ear infections all cleared up when she removed olive oil, rice bubbles, mandarins, garlic, olives, chicken, baked beans, and eyeshadow. Rice bubbles are also known as Rice Krispies in certain parts of the world. Arthritis was caused by pasta, garlic, pork, ham, milk, olive oil, chicken and milk. His doctor took him off cortisone after 6 weeks on this program. Acne rosacea cleared by removing Vegemite, potato, broccoli, chocolate and dairy products. Goodness me, this all sounds far too good to be true. And at the bottom of page 2 we have the company Magnetic Energy in association with Naturopathic Services Proprietary Limited. And there is an address here, a P.O. Box in Paradise Point in Queensland, Australia. And now we get to the grunge. On the top of page 3, 260 items tested by hair sample for only $120. And $120 in 2004 is worth roughly $210 today. We test 260 items of food, chemicals, fibres, food colourings and metals. Allergy testing is now available through our mail order system. Simply send us a small clump of your hair, enough to cover the shaded area below, and we will test you for all the items on the test sheet. Hair sample must be wrapped in plastic/Glad wrap. Colours, perms or medications do not affect the testing. Isn't that lucky? Include a list of your current symptoms and your age. We offer this mail order service for just $120, including GST, and that's a tax. A money order, credit card or check is acceptable. I'm sure it is. And then we have the rest you fill out with your details and your credit card number. Make checks payable to Naturopathic Services Proprietary Limited. And again, the address. Now, of course, this sort of hair analysis is pure quackery.
And now from the Lewiston Morning Tribune in the state of Idaho, 28th of November, 1993. Alternative healthcare gets a second look. Leading establishment groups are reconsidering holistic techniques. Associated Press, Seattle. Naturopathy, homeopathy, acupuncture, chiropractic, and other alternative healthcare techniques are being considered by 2 leading establishment medical groups in Washington state. Group Health Cooperative of Puget Sound has assembled a committee to make recommendations for including some alternative programs by July, said Dr. Simeon Rubenstein, Medical Staff Director for Health Policy. We're taking a hard look at this, Rubenstein said. Blue Cross of Washington is working on an insurance program that would include some alternative care and plans to start a pilot program early next year, said Sydney Smith-Svara, Manager of Strategic Alliances. We're trying to be responsive to our customers' needs and interests, she said. At Bastyr College of Natural Health Sciences, a nationally accredited school for naturopathic doctors in Seattle, Research Director Dr. Liana Standish is on the advisory committee to the new Office of Alternative Medicine at the National Institutes of Health and has been working with Rubenstein on the group health policy. It will be interesting to see how well we can mesh, Standish said. The state's New Health Services Act prohibits health insurers from discriminating against any class of healthcare provider. It doesn't require that a health plan includes all types, but does require that plans offer any provider the chance to participate. With our state legislation, I think it will be easier for people to obtain alternative healthcare, said Dr. Jennifer Jacobs, a medical doctor who specialises in homeopathy and advises NIH on alternative medicine. The insurance providers are seeing this as a way to attract consumers to their plan, Jacobs said. Homeopathy is based on treatment of illnesses with highly diluted solutions of substances known to cause similar symptoms, for example, bee venom to treat inflammation. A recent study in the New England Journal of Medicine found that 1 in 3 Americans uses alternative healthcare. There are more visits to alternative providers in this country than there are visits to all primary care providers, Rubenstein said. The numbers are big. Naturopaths who emphasise natural remedies and non-invasive treatment of disease have benefited from growing emphasis on preventative care, Standish said. This year, naturopaths gained the authority to prescribe drugs such as antibiotics and anti-inflammatories in Washington. Immunisation remains a difficult issue. Many alternative healthcare specialists believe vaccination has been overused and the risks understated, a position that torpedoed earlier collaboration efforts with group health, Standish said. Now, she and Rubenstein said both sides could agree to provide consumers with information so they could choose for themselves. Some alternative medical practitioners are sceptical about collaboration. I see old systems trying to capture the best part of the market, said James Blair, who works at Seattle Acupuncture Associates. Unless alternative methods are incorporated into the healthcare system through a studious and critical assessment of effectiveness, cooperative efforts will be little more than window dressing, he said. A treatment should be covered only if it is demonstrably superior or at least equal to standard techniques, Blair said. It would be silly for an insurer just to say we're going to cover acupuncture now because that's just an added cost, Blair said. Despite increasing evidence that vitamin therapy, herbal medicine and other treatments once derided by the medical establishment can be more effective than standard approaches, some alternative medicine amounts to quackery, said Dr. Dan Labriola, a naturopath at the Bastyr Clinic and chairman of the State Health Department's Naturopathic Advisory Committee. There's a lot of nonsense out there, Labriola said.
Well, there you go, and a big thank you to Lara Benham for helping me out with this week's Trove look at naturopathy and naturopaths. But you too can find out all about hair analysis and naturopaths and all sorts of other crazy stuff when you go to Trove at trove.nla.gov.au or Google Newspapers or maybe your local library. How about that? Because when you go there and have a look, well, you never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Thank you to all those people who Continue to support the Skeptic Zone via PayPal or Patreon, even if it's $5 a month. It really makes a difference here at the Skeptic Zone. And I'm able to keep the show going. I'm able to buy equipment for recording purposes. And I'm able to keep my reporters going as well with their various recording needs, which is very important. Next week's episode should be a very special one. It'll be the live recording of the Why Smart Women Zone. Now, we're doing this Thursday night here in Sydney at the Occidental Hotel near Wynyard on York Street. And that will be from 6 p.m. this Thursday night. All welcome. Annie McCubbin from the Why Smart Women podcast, myself, and our special guests, Kate Thomas from the Skeptic Zone podcast, our dear friend Dr. Sue Urachi, emergency physician, and the president of Australian Skeptics, Jessica Singer, will all be taking part, and your host, making sure things actually run on time, will be none other than Lara Benham. Lots to talk about with those smart women, and there'll be some prize giveaways as well. Check out this week's show notes for a link to the Meetup group, or just go to Meetup and look for AUST Skeptics. It's a great way to keep up to date with what's happening at Skeptics in the Pub in Sydney, but see you there. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.